Hi, my name's Kev Popat and today we're talking about how to have a difficult conversation with your parents about care. It can be really obvious to us that an elderly parent may need some care or support, but it might not necessarily be obvious to them. You can imagine a situation where your parents have been looking after themselves for 10, 15, 20 years and the amount of support that they've needed from yourself has been slowly progressing. To them, they know nothing else. This conversation can be very, very difficult and tricky. And I guess for me, the difficulty is rooted in the fact that the person who might be needing the care, your elderly parent, has the fear of losing control, has the fear of potentially becoming a burden on you, someone who that they've supported, and now all of a sudden you're going to have to support them. So having that conversation is really, really difficult. And for me, like with everything, this conversation becomes much easier if it's a proactive conversation rather than a reactive conversation to something that has happened. If an event has happened and all of a sudden you're saying, look, mum, dad, I think we need to get some care and support for you, it's really difficult. Whereas if you start having that conversation when it's not necessarily needed and start explaining to them what services are available and how potentially you could receive an hour of care a week and kind of warm up to things, and that it doesn't have to be care, it can be an hour of support. You can have a support visit where someone comes and helps you with shopping or washing or dressing for maybe just an hour a week. It's really important to have the conversation from that point of view. And I guess, like with all things, really importantly, to make them understand that it's their choice. And that's the benefit of having the conversation really early, is that it is just a conversation at that point to say, well, look, how would you like to be supported going forward? Would you like to move into a care home? Would you like to move into some sheltered accommodation? Or would you like to have your home adapted so you can stay here for as long as possible safely? So in summary, it's really important that you know what the options are so that you can explain this to your parents and have that conversation with them. You need to be planning really far in advance, and I'm talking years rather than weeks. So if it's a care home that they want to be moving into, what are the care homes locally? What do they specialise in? If it's care at home, you need to be meeting with the right companies, the right people, having conversations with them, asking them what their capacity is. It's really, really important that you want to be being proactive rather than reactive. And if you know what the options are and you know where you're going, then that makes it a lot easier for you and your parents. So you can imagine that all good care homes have a waiting list, and the same is with all good care at home companies. So we have a waiting list of kind of 2 to 3 weeks minimum, because we need to be able to ensure that we can provide a safe service at home. Care homes have a very, very similar waiting list, if not longer. It's going to be a lot less stressful for you if you have a plan and you know what you're going to do, because you're not being reactive to a situation. You already know someone at a local care home. You already know someone at the local care at home company that you're going to use, and you can just say, look, now's the time. Mum and dad are going to look to need some care in the next few weeks. What can you do? You already know all about them. You've done your research, and it's going to make things a lot easier. So I know from personal experience that this is a very difficult conversation to have. I've had the same conversation with my parents for caring and supporting my gran. And the brilliant thing about it is that as a family, we all got together and had this conversation. It's not something we normally do. It was a little bit awkward. It was a little bit weird, but everyone knows where they stand now. And we're in a much better place. And my gran is being looked after by all of her family members. If I were you, the next step for you would be very much to understand what the options are out there so that you can start having the conversation with your parents. It's really important to go into a conversation prepared and start thinking about who else you'd like involved in that conversation. Is it just you to have a light conversation initially? Is it you and your siblings? Is it uncles, aunts? It's really important to plan around all of this. You never want it to seem like an intervention or something like that really early on, but you need to have planned out this situation, and it's really important that everyone's on the same page. If you were to do one thing today, I would suggest that you plan around and get everyone who needs to be in that conversation in a room together and start talking. If you have any questions about how you want to organise that or what sort of questions you should be asking, please comment below.